December. On a November election, it's June. So, tell me about these boards of directors, you say. Board of directors, all appointed by the city council. And one of the things about EDC boards, you're appointed by the city council. You're appointed to a specific term. The Type A corporations, the board now I think has 7 members, but it must have a maximum. It must have a minimum of 5. Serve at the pleasure of the city council. Does anyone know what that means? Here today, gone tomorrow, if they choose. So keep in mind that board members, you're there as long as you're making them happy, and as long as you're making your voters happy. Because a council member can be removed by the council. Can remove a board member by a simple majority vote and replace them with someone else. But if you're lucky and everything works out well, you'll get a 6-year, you'll be able to stay in office for 6 years, and you'll be reappointed. I can tell you there's some EDCs in small communities out there. They created the corporation and one over in East Texas in 1993, and for the 15 years I've been with the program, that person has served as the president of their Type B board. So it's very possible you might be around a really long time, or in some communities you may not be around very long at all. So, but 6-year term, you can always be reappointed. No requirements for membership. You don't even have to live in the city unless your bylaws say you have to. The Type A boards, of course, were for rural communities, so it's very likely they were thinking in terms of want to get somebody on the board like that gentleman. He's doing a good job. We'll just keep him there forever. So you don't even need to live in the city limits, though. So your farmers who also are the banker, they may work in town, but then they go back to their farms at night. They would be able to serve on the board even though they don't live in the city. B board's a little bit more complicated because remember, this is for Arlington. Arlington is a city of 250,000 people at the time, and so they had a whole lot better able to choose people to serve on the board, and there was plenty of opportunities to find new board members if they needed. So what the plan was is that there would be 7 members of the board appointed by the council. Once again, serving at the pleasure of the council, the terms are only 2 years long. And you can be reappointed, but there was also another restriction. They wanted to have citizens on this board. And if you're going to have citizens on the board, it's not required to be a majority, it can just be a minority, but you can't have more than 4 members of the 7-man board to be members of the city's governing body or city employee. 3 members have to be people that are unaffiliated with city government. They simply are citizens who go vote. So members, membership is mixed, but not more than 4 people affiliated with the city. Must be a city resident. For Brownsville's purposes, you must be a city resident to serve on the board. There's no exceptions because the population requirement is less than 20,000 to have any variance in that. This is a corporation. One of the things that people misinterpret with this program is that you are not a city appendage. You are a separate entity from the city, but its governing body is appointed by the city. So think in terms of this is a nonprofit corporation whose purpose is to promote economic development in your community. You have the semblance of being, under the city's auspices because you're spending city sales tax, but at the same time you are a separate entity subject only to being removed by the council if they don't like what you're doing. You have some bylaws that the city council can change at any time. If they decide that they don't like how the board's being operated, they can make changes in the bylaws, but when it comes down to it, bylaws are in place that simply complement what state law says. So state law is the baseline, and the bylaws simply put additional requirements or restrictions depending on how you interpret them that make it a better fit for Brownsville because the state can't anticipate all your needs. One of those bylaw things might be that you can't be reappointed. Bylaw thing might be you can't be able to serve more than 2 years or 2 terms. But these have certificates of formation at the Secretary of State, just like any other corporation. Exxon's got one down there. So, but you're tax exempt because you're spending sales tax money. So you file that form with the controller's office, and the EDC is not responsible for paying sales taxes, anything the controller collects. And they're not obligated to pay property taxes on property owned by the EDC, although often there is an arrangement that the EDC, if it's not being used for economic development purposes, just being held, you make a payment to the school district or pay it to the appraisal district to be distributed to primarily the school district if that's something that you all agree to do, but you're not obligated to. So. Board training. The board has to have the training that you see here. It's required by law for any public person that requires Open Meetings Act and Public Information Act training. We encourage people to take economic development training because you're lay people. You're people that go to work every day at your own jobs and everything, so you may or may not have the experience in economic development, but we hope through the process of picking people that business people end up on the board, or people that have some business experience, which is good, or other economic development experience. But state law only requires the board to have the training here, so that we encourage you to take the training that is required of other people, just simply to improve your knowledge if you don't have those original skills due to your own employment. So that training I'm speaking of is there's two people that work for the EDC, your executive director, some communities it's the city manager, but this person handles the day-to-day activity of the board. They're required to have specific training every 24 months to make sure they're up on the statute and all the new techniques and tools that are necessary to operate an economic development organization. And then one other person at the city, and you see that's in the second box there, city attorney, city administrator, or clerk. So the idea is there's two people at your EDC that are handling the day-to-day activities that know all of the things that you're not obligated to know as a board. And this training is required every 24 months because the legislature meets every 24 months, so that law can change. So let's talk a little bit about how these corporations operate. It's interesting, and you'll see on the slides, as to the difference in the project approval process. Type A corporations can move very quickly on things. Sometimes I can tell you that, that it's often a matter of days or weeks on projects that if you don't take action on them, that business is going to look elsewhere. And it's a good reason to have a Type A corporation, particularly for industrial development, because A corporations can move quickly and within 72 hours can cut an agreement. By law, you can cut an agreement within 72 hours and get it down the road. Whether it's to build a road, you of course got to do your environmental and everything on that, but funding it is that quick. Or if it's an industrial plant that needs an incentive, you can do it in 72 hours. You make the agreement, adopt it, council approves of it, and it's ready to go. So you don't lose that opportunity. But the Type B corporation has a much more robust process that it has to go through, because a lot of these projects don't involve direct incentives to businesses. They really are more things that are related to quality of life and improving the community itself. And so those, the public has direct involvement in, that they can stop any project, at least temporarily, by bringing a petition to the city with 10% of the registered voters saying, we want a vote on this particular project. So A moves quickly, A can get things done, focused on industrial development and primary jobs, which are jobs that produce exports, but the legislature's got a specific list. But Type B, it can be all of that and more. And so as a result, much bigger process. I teased a little bit at the beginning saying that A's can do B projects. You can't, except you've got to go through this entire process, including an election, on every B project. So just keep in mind, you can't avoid it. It doesn't even require a petition. That petition issue goes away because all of them require public hearings and all of them require elections if you are an A trying to do a B project. So with that, the B has certain projects that are much more directed towards making the community better. So therefore, it's got more public involvement. If you're just talking about making it better for business alone and focusing on just building factories and building roads that make business move and things work better, the A has got a much more limited scope, so therefore it doesn't require as much community involvement in the process. And there's usually plans that are attached to the A project. So for example, you don't necessarily just go in willy-nilly and building a factory. Your 5-year economic plan says we're looking for industrial development of these types. So the public is already really involved in it anyway when you're doing that planning. So A projects, think move quickly, but think smokestacks and producing exports, but B, think about it as making your community better in a whole lot of other ways. So, what does this look like on the ground? Well, see a picture like this, you go, that's pretty obviously, that's industrial. We're talking about things that involve either some things in the petrochemical industry, but anything that is regular factory work. You just think about the punch card and the whistle blowing every 8 hours. So in any case, that type of things. But we're much more modern now. I mean, smokestacks aren't everything. People don't go to work with the lunch box and the helmet as much as we used to. So sometimes it's people in white coats. This is research and development. Warehousing. You're in an area that logistics is kind of your bread and butter. It's warehouses, things coming in, things going out, maybe not necessarily produced in Brownsville, but you touch them, you handle them. Everything from the freight hauling back and forth across the border to FedEx and UPS sending things all out of Brownsville long distances away within the United States. Say it's a company like Dell. Dell Computer is one of the biggest manufacturers and service providers in the technology business, and they do several of these things. So you may find a business that qualifies for a Type A incentive, but also qualifies for a Type B incentive. So you would decide what corporation you're going to send this through as a result of what they're going to be doing that needs incentivizing. For example, Dell builds computers, so that's a Type A project. But Dell also sells computers. That's a retail activity. That's a B project. Dell has a telephone call center. They do repairs. They do service. This company is a corporate headquarters facility. A corporate headquarters facility is an A project and thus a B project. So just keep in mind that depending on the project, the circumstances will determine which corporation is better suited to do it. So this wants another good argument. Well, why would you want to have both? You have both because you need to move quicker, and maybe the incentive you can provide is an A incentive that you can work in 72-hour notice. But if you're only going to incentivize the retail activities or one of the aspects of a Type B project, then that's going to take 60 days, plus the 3 days notice. So we talk about Type B projects making the community better. So when we talk about cultivating communities, this is parks and open space improvements, things like theaters, baseball stadiums, which was Brownsville's original intent was a sports facility. You can pay for things like convention facilities and retail incentives. And when we talk about retail incentives, something to keep in mind, we're not necessarily talking about, as many people hear about agreements of giving cash to businesses to get them to locate to your town. It's just as important to a business like Cabela's to have you put in a water sewer line or some other infrastructure, maybe a traffic light or a road to make a business project, to make a project work. So don't necessarily think that sales tax involves anything more than an industrial plant might require on a sales tax. Sales tax in businesses are similar in a lot of ways to industrial, that they require infrastructure as well. But small communities may find that it's not going to be Cabela's, it's going to be something as small as this. A lot of EDCs in towns of your size have small business development funds. And those small business development funds would fund something like this. So it doesn't necessarily mean to be a small town, it can be a small business. So your corporation can fund these types of things as well. Okay, here's the most controversial part. The most controversial part that we will discuss tonight is the things that really are beneficial, important to your community, things that make you feel good. But are they economic development? And often, tears your heart out that the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or the pick the most benevolent funding organization that doesn't always in need of money. It's difficult to say no, but state law requires you to say no. And so here's the types of things that you can fund. When we talk about infrastructure, you can fund things in these categories like pipeline, water and sewer pipelines for business only. So your residence you may find that you've got a water line out in your community, but it runs through the residential area. It's only serving residents, and it's a sewer line, and it keeps breaking. Well, the EDC can't help. They can't help on that project because the law only allows you to provide sewer for business. Water supply, call an election, you can provide that help. So keep in mind, sometimes it's situational. You can provide gas lines, electricity, water, and internet. But now let's get into the types of things for those people that I said might come visit you. After you determine that you've got somebody that comes to you and says, we've got a need for a training program, and they're offering it at the high school. Program at the high school that's offering people training in something like auto mechanics. EDCs cannot help. Tears your heart out to know that you've got a demand in the community, high schools provide the service, and the EDC can't help. State law does not allow you to help because state law does not allow you to provide any type of educational facility, including a library, K through 12 classrooms, athletics facilities. You can't help because the school district is its own taxing entity and has access to its own funds, and the law specifically in 2003 struck out educational centers. Once again, people in need, something that would be beneficial to the community, but the EDC can't help. And it hurts, but you can't help.
In no way, or just the actual physical facilities?
You can't provide any assistance to the ISD.
For example, we find ways to fund programs in alignment to what we do. We brought those robots, no cost to us. We brought them some grants from the Texas Workforce Commission, no cost to us. So we can do in that fashion, but no dollars.
Right. And you can accomplish this in a different way. We had a town with a similar name with conditions nowhere similar to Brownsville. City of Brownfield. Okay, think about the most distant place in Texas that you can go away from Brownsville, and you're in Brownfield. It's basically a suburb of Lubbock, and it's about 25 miles out of town. And Brownfield had a project brought forward just like this. They had students at the school that would learn primary job training. This would be like, this is an oil and gas town. So we're talking about providing for plumbing, electrical, welding, things that are high demand, high paid career jobs. No way anybody would think that it wouldn't be great to help that. It's really a beneficial thing. But who's offering the coursework? The Brownfield ISD. Can't help. But there's a way you can help. You can help these types of training, but you have to work through a college. So that would be University of Texas. That would be
TSC.
What's that?
TSC.
Yeah.
Texas South.
Texas.
Even though they're a taxing entity themselves?
They're a taxing entity themselves, but your provision of assistance is not curriculum. It's not the coursework. It's not the books. It's not the teaching. You provide the facility and the equipment. So in other words, this would be a building. You could lease a building. We've even kicked around ideas that maybe you might be able to lease it from somebody associated with the ISD, but we just recommend against doing that. You really want to build a facility. and then provide the equipment and everything, and the instructors have to be offering coursework that is college credit. So you can accomplish things. EDC can fund it, but you can't work with the school district. So you can be friends with the school district, you can coordinate, and here's how you coordinate. Brownfield. Brownfield came with me with this program and said, can we do anything? And I said, yes, you can. The students for that program were all high school students. And what you can do is you provide the bus to get them from the school grounds to the facility that may be across the street from the school if that's where it is. And you provide the facility and you provide the equipment. The local junior college provides the instructors and the books, or the students pay for the books, however it works. Heck, the school district could pay for their tuition if they chose to. You don't care about that because you are going to fund the things that you can do. And so basically the kids are being funded, you're getting the welding training, you're getting the electrical training, you're getting the plumbing training. The EDC is providing a legal project that's benefiting the community, and the school district is not benefiting in any way from it other than the students of the school district are getting an education and training that is needed in their community, and they're going to go out and earn high wages. So keep in mind, just because it shows as non-permissible doesn't mean you can't help in another way. But providing cash or assistance that benefits the curriculum offered at schools, whether it be the athletic curriculum or the teaching curriculum, is not permitted. So educational facilities and libraries are out of your realm of being able to fund. But always remember there's another way to do it. So be creative and think about the other ways to do it, but make sure you're going down the legal path. There's always needs for City Hall. City Hall has needs of maintenance and repairs and things like that. And this common question is, can you build a City Hall with EDC money? No, you can't help. You're not. That's not industrial development. That's not economic development. Can you build fire stations and police stations? Only in the specific circumstances of Wells Fargo says that they want to build an armored car facility, and the police station is on the east side of the railroad tracks, and Wells Fargo is on the west side. Trains through every 30 minutes. When are you going to rob Wells Fargo? You're always going to pick the time the train's going by. So you can provide a police station. Same thing with a fireworks factory or a petrochemical plant. You can build a fire station if circumstances fit that would be nearby, make it possible to be able to do, to put out a fire that occurs there, when the trains are passing. Sewage assistance for the general public we already covered, and you can't repair city streets for the general benefit of the public. It has to be building or repairing streets that are in industrial or business areas, or provide access to business areas. And the EDC doesn't need to do all its work itself. You can contract with other people. So the EDC can contract with anyone. It can contract with another EDC, contract with the city, contract directly with the business. The most common way that EDCs help the business community or do contracts is helping the business community when you do an incentive agreement with the business, whether it's to build up a road into their facility or provide them an incentive to expand or make improvements to their business in order to provide for more employment and higher incomes. So you can contract with anyone, but most common contracts are with other governmental entities or companies directly. And chambers of commerce do marketing for you quite often if you don't do it yourself. And nonprofit organizations, if they're offering a service that is a permissible type of service, you can contract with them, but you can't make donations. So in other words, if someone comes and asks for a donation, once again, you can't help with that because the legislature does not allow you to make donations to nonprofits. That's considered a gift. But the way you can get around that is if you do want to assist someone doing some type of benevolent activity, like they're holding a fair or a contest, beauty contest, or a ballet folklorico or something of that nature, you can put a banner, the EDC's banner, up at that for marketing purposes. And usually the cost of those banners is basically it's used to provide their activities, but you're getting a marketing benefit from it. That would be how you would assist, but providing cash incentives to nonprofits is not permissible otherwise. So then the reporting requirements, legislature requires that every April 1st you submit a report to the controller, with the benefit that both you and the members of your community, as well as the legislature, can find out exactly what.
John asked me to.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Relatively to the nonprofits, supporting nonprofits that are supporting education. Yes? Can you hear me there?
Yes, I can.
Great. Is it permissible as a type A to support I think I just heard you say we're not supposed to do that, and
It's all about accomplishing a permissible purpose. So once again, if it's going to benefit, say, for example, the graduating high school class, and you're going to be giving scholarships, that's a gift. That's not promoting economic development.
No,
So-
in our case, there's an organization that it's VITA, and they're helping to assist people who want to pursue a better career and make a better living. Is that permissible within the law to support them?
We had this discussion some time ago, and we did research on it, and it looks like, based upon what we read in the local government code, there's a provision there that provides for providing life skills that improve a person's ability to earn income. And it's going to require your attorney to make sure that what this organization is doing is actually providing skills for people to go from not working to being fully employed.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily, when we're talking about dealing with nonprofits, you can deal, we talked about the contract aspect. You can do contracts with nonprofits, that's not the issue. The issue is gifts are not permitted.
Okay.
If it's got to be for a permissible purpose. So we're speaking of something that was a provision written only for 2 counties in the state. 254 counties in the state and 252 don't qualify for this program. But it says that you can provide life skills to people in order to provide them with a ability to earn a good living. And the 2 counties are Cameron and Hidalgo, and cities within Cameron and Hidalgo. So the answer to your question is probably yes. But it's all about the purpose, not the organization that you're
Yes.
contracted with.
Thank you.
And also, there are college credits, I believe the college credits, not a certification attached to that, right? Which is another provision, right? If there's college credit or certification involved, is that right?
Yeah, as long as college credit's given, that actually goes over into the other part is if you're providing something more than just assistance with getting them skilled. So it would be providing things like equipment and the facility in which they're being taught. But it sounds like to me they're providing their own facility and everything. It's basically they're receiving funds in order to provide the training and so forth.
Yeah. I'm just wondering where the line is between type A and type B, you know?
Based upon this statute, it looks like the Type A corporation has the advantage in this area.
Okay.
But we were, in the limited time we had to research it, I'm not sure that provision is also available to Type B, but it's possible that it may also apply to them. But the main issue why we were not focused on it is, we spend most of our time talking to an audience that is 254 counties, and if we started going into the specific of the fact that over in Beaumont and Port Arthur, they can use it to build dormitories for college students. Well, if I told you all about that, all of a sudden, Brownsville would, the Texas University of Texas here in Brownsville would be wanting to get in on the game, and you'd have to tell them no. So we talk about the generalities there, but when we get to specifics and visit communities, we discovered that program apparently would qualify under that law, but your attorney would need to advise you.
Thank you for answering my question.
Did you have a question, Steve?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And of course, we can always take more questions for the end. But this reporting program has been around since 1997, so you can find out where your city's EDCs and those across the state have been doing with their money. And it's great because we now have a tool out there. You can do these comparisons yourself. You can pull up the data very easily. It's a graphic interface, and this allows you to put Brownsville Type A up against Brownsville Type B even, and say, how are they spending their money compared to each other? Or match you up against McAllen or Harlingen or Round Rock or Frisco. So use this tool in order to see how your EDC is doing and see how others are spending their money, and maybe you'll find, you may learn things that would let you want to pick up the phone and go talk to these folks and find out how they're spending their money. But this new tool just simply takes the data that's submitted, and it only takes about 5 minutes to submit a report because we don't collect a lot of data, but when you come down to it, it's visually very appealing when you see this revenue and expenditure data put up side by side, because you can immediately see when there's an imbalance or perceived imbalance on how the money's spent. I mean, you can imagine if all the money was being spent on personnel, I think you'd probably have people with pitchforks and torches at City Hall wondering where all the money's going. But if you've got fairly balanced expenditures and revenue, and most of the revenue is coming from sales tax, you would say the CDC is doing a great job. And so this data you see up here is imaginative, so don't think that this particular EDC does exist. And then we ask what other people are doing. This is great comparisons to, is to look what the assets and the objectives of an EDC are. So on box number 2, these are what this EDC is engaged in primarily doing with its resources, looking to create jobs and put in infrastructure. And then you look at the bottom, what does the EDC own? And it's very common for EDCs to own land and buildings and commercial buildings. Yes?
Does that report do any statistical comparisons? Like if you were to compare Brownsville against McAllen's administration costs or personnel costs?
Yes.
Or across the state though?
What we do is the data is available where you could view your EDC up against any other EDCs, and you can view it in 2 ways. You can view this in the form of actual dollars. So in other words, this EDC spent $50,000 on personnel, this other EDC spent $100,000 on personnel. Or you could say what percentage of the money that they take in is being spent on those categories. And so you can lay them one beside the other, and basically it all adds up to 100%, and you see the colored bars. You say, well, why is the personnel bar so much bigger? They're spending a much bigger percentage of their money on personnel, or a much bigger percentage of their money on capital projects than this other EDC that should be similarly suited. But remember, all communities are different, so that's just the starting point, is to see the comparison.
On a statewide basis though, would you be able to say, well, this is the investment percentage for statewide, and compare Brownsville's to the statewide
Yes.
investment?
Yeah, the first bar you can put up, you can either put up individual cities, you can put up all of them if you want at one time, but individual cities, so you can pick Brownsville and McAllen, and then you could say, what is the total expenditures of all EDCs that are type A, or all are type B, or all EDCs, and you get that total slapped at the top. So you get to see the total that all EDCs together have, plus you have the totals for these 2 EDCs, and you can use percentage comparisons to say, how does Brownsville do versus all other type A's in the state? So you'll have Brownsville spending 40% of its money on infrastructure projects. What's the average of all type A's? And that tool will give that to you. And so you go to our website, you see here comptroller.texas.gov, and go over to the economic development page and click on the data tool, and you will find, it's kind of like when you start playing a new video game, you'll find that hours later you're still there looking up these things. And my contact information is here if anybody has any questions that you haven't already asked, but I'm happy to take other questions.
You made a comment earlier about when you were talking about how you would have to use a university or a junior college to provide the instruction, curriculum, stuff like that. What about if you have would that apply to a dual enrollment? So like if you have an ISD partnering with a junior college, would that qualify?
Well, when it comes down to it, we basically draw the line that if it's dual credit, you want to be assured that there's a separation, that you're not funding a high school auto mechanics class. And so the reason why we devised the example of Brownfield was that what you would do is provide that separation. Same children, they're receiving high school credit.
On a different campus.
It's not up to you to determine whether or not they're receiving high school credit. Your responsibility is to see that they're receiving college credit. Can the classes be offered at the high school? No, unless the high school is being contracted by the college, and this happens all the time across the state. College classes are offered at the high school after school, and many of the students are adults from outside, so it's not necessarily kids. But the better way is the EDC builds the facility off campus and provides the facility and the equipment, and the college provides the curriculum, the instructors, and the high school is only providing the kids, the students. But if you want to get into, the murkiness of it, I would advise you to let your attorney work those out for you, because you want to make sure there's a separation, because you're not allowed to provide facilities and curriculum for high school, but you can provide it for any person, whether they're a high school student or not, and as long as it's a primary job training activity.
Does the comptroller's office have sort of like if you are in a gray area and even your attorney doesn't know, can't say for sure, is there some attorney general's opinion or comptroller's opinion you could go and say, here's our project, would it fly or not?
That works several different ways. First of all, when I say opinions, the controller's office does not offer legal opinions on very much at all, and related to type A and B, actually zero legal opinions. Tax law, you might say we do, because we offer opinions on tax law that are related to things like whether or not you owe franchise tax or sales tax on particular items and things like that. A better way of looking at it is, if you're looking for a legal opinion for anything, you go to the Attorney General's office, and there are probably 200 opinions that are related to type A and type B. You can view those on the website, and you can consult with their opinions team, but they generally refer you to your own city attorney when you want to interpret the actual opinion the AG has written. Okay, there's that. Now, if you're wanting assistance, you're wanting, how are other people doing it? You can contact the controller's office. We've got a team of folks that answer questions on this, as well as various type of property tax incentives like abatements and things of that nature. There are attorneys that work for you in two ways. One set of attorneys, of course, you've got on your own staff, but the other set of attorneys works for you because Brownsville is probably a member of Texas Municipal League. One of the instructors that teaches the statewide courses works for TML, Texas Municipal League. And she and her team of legal folks, you're paying dues as members of their organization, so they provide assistance to you generally at no additional cost. And so if you want an opinion that's legally binding, look at the Attorney General's. Actually, let me take that back. Attorney General's opinions are not legally binding. They're just there until the court says yes or no, but most people agree with them. But if you're wanting an opinion that you can count on, that you can take to court with you, your legal counsel at Texas Municipal League would give you that opinion. So that would be where I would go if that's what you're saying.
Thank you.
One more question. On ETJs, do we benefit from sales tax generated in our ETJ?
Not your community.
Okay.
The only way that you could do that is using something that's called a municipal development district, but that's another sales taxing entity. That could include the entire city plus the ETJ, but generally speaking, for your circumstances, it would be you imposing one in the ETJ, and remember, the voters for that are just the people that are in the district. So I probably would guess they probably would not vote for it, but, ETJ only benefits you if you're a small town and you either have a municipal development district or you're talking about hotel tax. 35,000 population or smaller, cities can tax for hotel purposes, hotel tax on ETJ.
Awesome. Any other questions while he's here? Awesome. Well, Mr. Gallahan, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discussion and acknowledgement of GBIC financials.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be brief on the financials. If you have any questions, go ahead and stop me and answer best I can. On page 1, this is intended to be a dashboard of the activity in summary form. I'll go over the dashboard. Top left-hand corner, you have your balance sheet. It's composed of assets, less liabilities, total net assets. You have receivables, cash, and investments, total of $15.5 million. Top right-hand corner, you've got your income statement in summary. You got revenues, over expenditures in the amount of $243,000. Bottom left-hand corner, you have your fund balances broken up into 2 categories. Undesignated, basically available to be appropriated, and then designated. These are projects that you already have commitments on. Total of those, $15.5 million. And then as sales tax collections between last fiscal year and this fiscal year through the month of January, you have an overall increase of $114,000 or 5.62%. Month of December was rather significant, and I'll go over that in detail right now. Page 2, you have your statement of financial condition or your balance sheets. Assets composed of cash, investments and receivables, $5.7 million. Current liabilities, basically accounts payable or commitments, $205,000. Your fund balance, I just went over, $6.8 million under undesignated, and then our undesignated, $8.6. Total liabilities, equity, and fund balance, $15.7 million. Page number 3 gives you a monthly comparison of your revenues over expenditures broken down month by month if you want to compare the activity from from month to month. Page number 4 summarizes that in a summary on a budget format. Basically, under revenues, 2 main sources of revenues is sales tax and interest income. Through the month of January, $1.9 million. Operating expenditures, $265,000. Incentive expenditures, $1.4. You have revenues in excess of expenditures of $243,000 through the period of January 31st. Page number 5 gives you a monthly sales tax comparisons from fiscal year 2011 through fiscal year 2020 through the month of January. That same information could be summarized in the sales tax history, again, in bar graph format. Page number 7, this is the detail in regards to we compare on a month to month or cumulative month, the sales tax sales tax received and accumulated through the month of January. As you see, the month of January, you see a significant increase, about 18% increase. This represents basically retail for the month of December. So the month of December is very significant, 93,000. Overall, out of the 114,000 that were up compared to last year, 93 is attributed to the month of December. Page number 8, you have sales tax comparisons between Brownsville, McAllen, and Harlingen. Again, broken down by the general fund sales tax, type A and type B. Page number 9 gives you a breakdown of the commitments that we have. Under incentive programs, you have a list of the incentive programs on there, totals $5.3 million. Non-incentive programs, total of $1.5 million, which adds up to the unreserved but designated fund balance of $6.8 million. All that activity is summarized in graph format in page number 10 and page number 11. The unreserved, undesignated, basically the way you formulate that, you have your beginning fund balance, which is unaudited at $15.2 million. You add your reserves, reduce it by your expenditures, you have total fund balance available You reduce it by what's designated already. $6.8 million gives you an amount of, that's undesignated fund balance of $8.6 million. Page number 13 gives you just a breakdown of the notes receivable amounts. Page number 14 gives you a breakdown of those commitments that have been actually made, and either payments applied against it or adjustments made to those commitments and the ending balance. And then lastly, on page number 16 gives you a general breakdown of your capital assets composed of land improvements, and vehicles of $11.8 million. That concludes the presentation. You have any questions?
No questions? Anybody want to move to acknowledge Mr. Granados?
I'll move to acknowledge.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 7, discussion, consideration, and acknowledgement of GBIC Executive Director and staff reports regarding recent activities and progress related to current ongoing projects.
Mr. Chairman and Board, draw your attention to the staff reports, page 1 under recruitment, item number 1. You recall Restec came and presented here, Mr. Matt Rusek before, and recently we had a familiarization tour. He actually brought some European prospects into the region. Ramiro spent a lot of time with them. I spent a couple of dinners with them, and we actually got one lead out for that, which is good. And I think that's the second time we've done a FAM tour with them in the last 4 months. Item number 4, we were continuing to pursuing our work with Select USA. If you recall, we presented that we were awarded a spinoff event. We've met with folks from the NAT Bank, the North America Development Bank, who are interested in participating. The Congressman's office are interested in participating, and the like. And soon we'll formulate a draft agenda of what that looks like, and I'll present that to you. In business retention expansion, we're going to start putting a graph. You see that at the bottom of the page of where we are month to month and are we meeting target or not. And you can see how Carla has met target in January. We'll present next month. I'll draw your attention to the sites that we met. One of them is Trico, and Mr. Sanchez helped us connect with them. And we actually, with the chairman and Mr. Sanchez, met with them already. And since then, we've met with them 2 other times, and we're working with them and Workforce Solutions and other entities to help them with a job fair as they requested. We're pursuing that as well. Page number 2 on the calendar events, you can see in the middle of those items the JET grant presentation was a very successful event. We had a lot of folks from the Workforce Commission. Before that event, the night prior, some of you joined me with a Workforce Commissioner for dinner, and we had, I remember Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Guerra, I believe, were both there, and others, and we were able to ask different questions and ask for opportunities for other types of grants. One of them, for example, is the Digital Divide Survey. We're asking the Workforce Commission to jump in on that as well. And also a matching grant for the robots that we brought in from Toyota. To that end, part of what Mr. Russell Gallahan mentioned is that us as a Type A, we're not funding any activities at ISD. We're just finding ways to bring other partners to do the funding. For example, the robots, the JET grant, and the like, right? We presented to PUB. Our plan is to present to all boards, to the port, for example, to TSC, BISD, and others, to make sure that everybody is aware of what activities we're involved in, what's our 5-year strategic plan, and what are we doing, and how can we collaborate with them to help us do what we're doing. So regarding the JET grant, we wanted to ask the BISD team to come here and show us when we did that presentation. They presented a video that I thought was very impacting, and I asked them if they could show it to you, and so they can share with you also what are they doing with the support that GBIC has given them. So without further ado, the BISD team.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kareli Garza. I'm the Porter P-Tech Director in Advanced Manufacturing at Porter. With me today, and I'll introduce them really quickly, is Ms. Mary Solis, our Porter Principal, and Ms. Alma Cardenas Rubio, who's our Area Assistant Superintendent. So if they could, Ms. Solis, did you have a few words?
I just want to thank you, and thank you for just the little bit of attention that we're able to take from you, your busy schedule. Also for the partnership that we've been able to make through Mr. Lozoya. But we're going to quickly, Carely will touch on some points in PTech, which stands for Pathways in Technology, Early College High School. The perception is that all students needed 4 to 8 years of colleges in order to be successful. That's a little misleading for our students, especially in Brownsville, that have very, very strong work ethics, and it may be even discouraging for some of them that we can assist them and guide them into college to get a certification or 2 years that will be a stepping stone for them in order to pay for college, for the rest of the time in college. There's also perceptions within our community in education that only, for instance, doctors save lives, when in reality, technicians that repair the computers that monitor heartbeats and blood pressure also save lives. And it pays our students very well, our very hardworking students and very techie savvy students. High-paying vocational jobs with an emphasis in technology or coding is the future that we want for Brownsville. And those are the future positions we want to prepare our students for the Valley and, of course, more importantly, our beautiful city, Brownsville. We want to grow our industries, and we want to grow our employable scholars. And we think with your help and with your support, as it's already very strong in this, in my opinion, for the campus that I work at, we can not only employ our scholars, but we can keep the money in our beautiful city. If I've learned anything from each and every one of you, I've learned that partners with common goals are very, very necessary. With caring partners, we can change and improve our families. And Ms. Garza will get into specifics on the actual program. Thank you.
Yes, what you're going to see right now is the video we put together prior to the Commissioner Julian Alvarez visiting our campus for the presentation of the JET grant. And what we obtained was the highest in Texas. We obtained $300,000, not including what we've already earned with the Toyota robot donation that we got through the networking that Mr. Lozoya provided for our ISD, but which is worth $80,000. And now we're trying to work with the Texas Workforce Commission to kind of, pair it up so that they could give us that money also for our students. We've also earned a planning grant. To match it, there we go. We've also earned a planning grant when we first began with PTech, and it was for $50,000. So overall, we're reaching almost $500,000 that are helping our ISD, and in particular, our PTech program that is focused on advanced manufacturing. The purpose of it being focused on advanced manufacturing is kind of reflecting back on what Mr. Gallahan said earlier, is you want industries to come to Brownsville, well, we're gonna have that if we have the employees. And at this point, in order for us to have the employees, we have to grow our own, which is what we've been doing with the ISDs, something that Mr. Lozoya put together. And we it's industries, community colleges, and ourselves to working together, collaborating to bring those industries into Brownsville. And the only reason they're gonna come is if we can guarantee them that we have the employees for them to hire, which we will through this type of program. So this is just a little preview of what the kids have done so far.
And I'm a part of Gladys Porter Early College High School's first PTech cohort.
Students enter the PTech program as 9th graders and work simultaneously towards earning a high school diploma, an associate's degree, and/or industry certification at no cost to our students' family. The Porter PTech program is focused on advanced manufacturing, which is a growing industry within our community, and it allows students an individualized pathway to completion, work-based learning experiences, mentorships, in-depth project-based learning, and real-world experiences. With PTech, we are growing our own pipeline from education to the workforce.
PTech provides opportunity for my students to have priority in employment opportunities within our industry partners. Being a part of this program has allowed to my students to experience first robotics competition, see first underwater robotics competitions, and for the first time, this year, our students will participate in an Electrotron electric car competition at the San Antonio Alamo Dome, offering real-world experience and opportunities in the future is our PTech program's priority when it comes to our students.
My name is Salvador Mendoza, and I truly believe that PTEC has changed my life for the better. I used to be a shy student that had a harder time making friends, but PTEC really gave me that push and strength to break out of my cocoon. I have seen myself become a confident, social, and hardworking young man that helps his peers when they don't understand and comes it being taught, or the first person to become friends with the new student in the class.
Once I step into the classroom, the environment around me is uplifting and like a safe space. It's something that I look forward to every day because I get the chance to express myself and work as a team with my peers. Although I haven't had the opportunity to compete, I know that the knowledge that my teacher passes on to me and the resources brought forth by our sponsors will, without a doubt, have me ready to succeed. PTEC to me means an endless amount of life-changing opportunities and a chance to improve myself in every way possible.
I guarantee that I will be continuing along this journey throughout high school, just so I could accomplish my goal of pursuing a career in engineering.
Hi, my name is Leonardo Torres, and I'm the captain of the PTEC robotics team. Tied within technology, early college high school is definitely that one crucial piece of experience that you need in life because it teaches you about responsibility, hard work, communication, and teamwork. Learning about manufacturing and robotics in class is just undescribable. Other students might think it's boring and useless, but I know that when I graduate, I want to be just like our industry partners that gives us their support to help us further our education. I want to be able to give back to my community by helping initiate PTEC programs in other schools because it makes you feel empowered and confident that our industry sees so much potential in you that they want to help you succeed and thrive beyond your limits. With that being said, I want to give a tremendous thank you to the Texas Workforce Commissioner, Julian Alvarez, for awarding our district the JET grant that is giving us a helping hand along this journey, and to the industry, CK Technologies, GBIC, and among others, for inspiring us to keep striving for higher goals.
You know, these freshmen,
Yes, they're all freshmen. We currently have 54 students in the program. They're all 14, 15 years old, so they're very young. So just having them to do this video was very, very hard work. And just seeing how much they've grown, one of the ones that comes out there, Salvador, extremely shy. His previous counselor told us that he's like, what do you mean he's in a video? Like, they couldn't believe it because he was very shy. But because of all the opportunities that he's gaining through PTEC, he's been able to kind of come out of the shell. And the fact that I'm the teacher and myself, we encourage them to, you have to present, you have to go and present to the middle schools, you have to go and present to fifth graders. So they've been kind of like being exposed in those ways. So we look forward to continuing the collaboration with GBIC and any other industries in the community. We have an upcoming advisory board meeting, and if anybody is willing to be part of it, if you could just let me know or let Mr. Lozoya know, he could relay the message to me so that we could invite you. It's going to be March 26th, so I'll send more information on that once I have whoever wants to be part, because we're, the more the merrier. And I wanted to introduce Ms. Alma Cardenas Rubio, who's going to have a few words for you guys.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you so much for allowing us to be here and to have part of this presentation. 2 years ago, I was invited to a meeting where Mr. Lozoya talked about all the things that we can do as a school district. And we sat there and I thought, he's not coming back. This is too good to be true. And let me tell you, from that moment on, all we hear is we grow our own. I am a product of Brownsville Independent School District. I stayed here. I could have left. My father was an attorney who practiced in this room. I could have done many things. But this culture in Brownsville ISD, they want to stay here. They want the opportunities. They want the education here. We're okay that the best place to go to is Starbucks. We're fine with that. But we want opportunities, and these kids deserve them. As a product of Porter High School, a former school principal, and now the assistant superintendent who oversees this school. And to see what these two ladies have done with the partnership that you have provided and the support you've provided on behalf of the superintendent, Dr. Renee Gutierrez, the board members, the former students, the people that come back, continue doing what you're doing. Stay on this board, make this happen. You'd be surprised how many people will continue to stay in Brownsville if the opportunities are here. When you hear a student say, yo sé lo que puedo ser, I just need the knowledge and the certificate that I can do this legally, then I will definitely try to continue in this path. So We want to do things right. We want to thank the partnership, but most of all for coming back to our schools and finding ways to help us. Ever since this has happened, everything we do, we just finished doing curriculum writing. We just finished talking about what rooms we're going to change, how we're going to change. I wish you could see the before and after of this room. And don't worry, we paid for all of that, okay? So if you could just see the before and after, you would be impressed with the investment we have made just because this opportunity. You showed us a different way of doing things, and we will continue to do that. Thank you for being on this board, and I just really want to look forward to seeing so many more things happening. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, ladies. That was great feedback to hear. I'm glad it's working out. Mario, thank you for setting all that up too.
Just request to acknowledge the staff reports.
I'll move to acknowledge.
Give a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So acknowledged.
Item number 8, discussion and possible action, if any, on request for proposal for professional marketing services for GBIC.
Do we have that? Slide. So we went through the process of reviewing the proposals, and we really wanted to consider what are the local proposals compared to the others. And these are the areas that we're looking at. The rebrand, this is all based on the 5-year strategic plan, if you recall. The rebranding, the marketing materials, website management, social media, and the like. Obviously, everything in alignment with our 5-year strategic plan. These are the 4 companies that provided a proposal. And to inform you that, in my opinion, after looking at the process, we don't think we're ready to make a recommendation. So we are asking for this item to be tabled so we can provide you a more detailed recommendation when we meet again, because we saw that there was a huge difference between the different packages, the way that were turned in. So we're having to call them back for more information. So we didn't have a like presentation from each of the 4, and we're waiting to accumulate a similar information from each so we can make a more educated decision. So we're not prepared to make a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, 2 things, Mario, just as a recommendation. One, on that scoring system, who was involved in that scoring system? Was it just staff? Or was any board member?
Right, it was the staff. So what actually it started with Laura running it, and then Carla and I got involved before Laura left, but we didn't have enough time to complete it. I don't remember if Mrs. Duran was there to open it, but not more than that. She just opened it to verify the applicants, but she wasn't involved in the scoring, if that's your question.
Well, I'd like to recommend that maybe a committee be formed. Definitely a board member. And also, I would like, when it is brought back, that it be included in the backup.
Yeah.
That way we get a chance to review a little bit more.
Before the meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
I would also add that I'd like to see the applicants address the board and give their pitch to us, either at the committee level or at the board level. I think that interaction helps, and it's a lot faster to answer questions.
Okay, so we'll send out a request for interest to form a committee, and then we'll pick it up from that. I just don't feel comfortable. It could be potentially a big expense, and I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation.
Well, I'll move the table, Mr. Chairman.
We have a second and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion table.
Item number 9, discussion and possible action, if any, on pending proposals for the following 511 related studies. A, soil survey. B, phase 1 environmental. C, historical survey.
Alyssa Ramiro, just in case I have any questions. Ramiro put this together, and like the other processes, Mrs. Duran was present to make sure that we recorded the right applicants and the like. And but the team, myself and Ramiro and Lara, who's not here anymore, went through the process. And let's see if I get this right. So in this case, the geotechnical investigation, we have 3 applicants, and the staff recommends Robert Kistner based on the scoring system. Any questions on that?
Do we have the costs submitted?
We have them, we do have them here available. We can provide them to you. We didn't want to put the cost numbers up public, but we thought that the scoring system, this is based on the RFP that each one should submit.
One of my questions with the potential Project Stone, I know there's been discussions about them potentially
That's right.
paying for these services, is that correct? As far, I know the environmental is definitely one that was discussed, but also, I know there's been some work that's been done on this property before. I know with the original acreage that we had and what we added on. So would we, by engaging these firms, be spending double? Or has this been done before? Do we know what's been done? I know I've requested to see that, what's been done in these properties.
So in this particular one, the geotech has not been done. The environmental was, and we have a different presentation for that. To answer your first question, the project asked if their contractor would do the master planning part, right? And we've agreed to support that idea, right? But in these particular ones, we didn't have those conversations for them to fund the geotech.
I'm almost positive they did mention the environmental. I know that.
Yeah, so we have a different presentation for that one.
Okay.
So separate than this one, if you want to, we can. There's a cultural.
Bless you.
This one, okay. So to your point, Mr. Guerra, the environmental one, we did have 4 applicants, but then last time we met, we suggested that we would reach out to Ambiotech, who had done an environmental prior, which is years ago, and we asked if we can reach out to them if they can update the one that they had done already at a lower cost, that we would go with it. We reached out to them. We actually met with Vicente from their team. They came, we showed them what we had, and we asked them, can you just update this at a much lower cost than what you had provided for? They agreed. And so the staff recommends that we go with it. It is a substantial less cost. So Ambiotech has agreed to just update the one that they did years prior. And I think that's what you were alluding to.
This is the one that this potential project did offer to pay for, correct?
So I think my question is on the environmental study. Have we approached a different firm to see if they can update that same study that has already been done? And I guess, and at the same time, I'd like to know the cost of that before we.
Yeah, so we approached 4 other firms, or they provided cost to do an representative of all the 491 acres. So we have that cost. And then when we met last time, I said that we found that this particular organization had done one for 350 acres.
Oh, so not even the full 491. So we wouldn't then have a complete environmental survey?
So the update would complete the whole 491, and they agreed to do that.
We haven't got to a different firm just for the update portion. Is that correct?
Correct. My understanding is another firm wouldn't. But we can.
I mean, I think
we can look. We can ask them, but they would want to put their name on a study that somebody else did and updated. But we can reach out to them.
Another point of clarification: is the 2012 survey no longer applicable or relevant?
Correct. It expires after so many years. So we asked them to just use the same data, update it. But they will still go ahead and visit the site and everything to make it legal, so they agreed to do that.
Okay. And what about the historical survey, the third portion?
So the next one, this one's cultural survey. I think that's the one you're talking about. So this one, 2 different companies applied, and the staff recommends half HLFF to conduct this particular survey or this study.
I really think that the cutting this into all little pieces may not be in our best interest. I think that it needs to be master planned. there should be a full schedule from beginning to end that brings this all together, rather than staff trying to cut up this professional services. Actually, it doesn't work in our favor. When industrial parks are planned, master planned, there is a schedule of all the civil, earth, and environmental engineering that's required. It's usually best that one general contractor take on the responsibility to bring this all together, rather than us trying to piece it piece by piece. It's just from experience, a recommendation I'd like to make. I don't know if we want to make a decision today on this.
I'm not really comfortable committing to anything without seeing the cost, so.
I agree.
I'd like to make a motion to table, Mr. Chairman.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And please, anytime we're being asked to commit to an organization, I'd like to see the costs. I mean, it's public money, it should be public information in cases like
Yep.
this.
Okay.
Item number 11? Or did I skip one?
10.
10? Item number 10?
Item number 10, discussion and possible action, if any, on the date and time changes for March meeting.
Essentially, the date that we have currently for March conflicts with potential vacations and things. I think it's the middle of spring break. And so consideration, if you want to consider either not having one in March or moving it earlier or later in the month. And we can provide windows of opportunity. It's just me putting it out here for you to consider. Should we consider different options or just stick with the schedule?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I know that we all have pretty complicated calendars, so I think that would require some sort of email follow-up. But whatever gets the most members available at the same time, I think it's reasonable.
Okay, so if I can request consideration for a motion for the staff to provide a vehicle for the board to select a different window for the March meeting.
I'll make a motion for the staff to
Motion?
propose.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, item 11.
Item number 11, closed session.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn to executive session. Is there a second?
Second.